You see this thing's running pretty rough. You can even see the idle kind of fluctuate just a little. Definitely misfiring. Come to the back, you can even hear it. Hey, welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, welcome. We're working on a 2009, I believe, Ford Focus. It's gonna be a pretty laid back repair. We're doing valve cover gasket and spark plugs. The engine's running pretty rough. It has a pretty heavy misfire. We'll go under the hood and you'll see why. Oil just all over the top, and I'm sure these spark plugs haven't been changed in a long time. It is currently about 23 degrees outside, so very cold. I've already warmed up the engine, got it to operating temperature, so when we're touching things on the engine, our hands won't freeze off, plus plastics and rubber hoses and things like that will be more malleable now that they're warmed up. All right, let's go out and get to working. Put my working beanie on, let's do this. Hopefully that angle isn't too weird for you guys. So just run through the basics real quick. We have ignition coils need to be unplugged and then taken out. We also have this little bracket right here. It gets unbolted from the side there. This little harness just pops off there. This hose will come off in the back. It's just a little thing you push on the side and then it should pop off. There we go. I'll show you that little closer view a little later. Now that's pretty much it. You're just disconnecting. This is the cam position sensor. So that can come off. These just pinch and pull off. Pinch and pull off, pull off. There we go. That can come up. That can come up there. And we can go ahead and disconnect the injectors just to make this harness more movable. There we go. I can just kind of move over. Let me get this here. I think it's a 13. There we go. All right. Now this harness can just kind of be moved at will. And these are 8mm. You can see why we're having misfires. A lot of oil in the wells. Oh yeah. Like Reese's Pieces. Like Reese's peanut butter cups on the top of this. That don't make sense. And I may be doing things out of order, but that's okay. 8mm deep. Whoa, are you guys okay? I may take a rubber mallet just to knock it loose. This is a plastic cover, so you don't want to hit it too crazy. It's so dirty, you can't see anything. See how nicely things work when you pull all the bolts out? Okay, so this has to come off. I'm just using a little screwdriver to push on that connector. And that just pops right off. We'll probably clean that really good. All right, so that's it. There, just kind of wiggle it around the harness like that. And it's out. So now we'll clean up our surface around it. Wherever the gasket is gonna sit, we want that nice and clean. Typically you don't have to use any kind of scraper or anything, just a rag to wipe all the oil and grime off. Don't forget where the spark plug gaskets go. So all of the spark plug wells have a little oil in them, if you can see down in there. But this one, that is crazy to the top. The fact that that wasn't a solid misfire, that it was a random misfire or an intermittent misfire in that one cylinder, that's pretty impressive. I got to give it to Ford there for it to keep firing under that kind of condition. And then you can see the coils, just nasty. We'll clean those off before we put them back in. So now, before I put the valve cover back on with the new gasket, I'm just going to go ahead and pull plugs, get those changed. I think these are original. Whoa, that one wasn't even tight. That's a little scary. Maybe they're not original. That's a lot of oil just to be sending into the cylinder, so I'm gonna go ahead and vacuum that out. Typically I'll just let it kind of just drain in, but that's a lot. A little bit of oil getting in the cylinder isn't a big deal, but that was a lot. I didn't want to hydrolock the engine. So that one fell apart. I don't know if you can see, so that was the top of it. Just came apart. In the middle, electrode just falls right into hitting that grounding electrode. I think it's safe to say that this thing's gonna run a lot better. I'm just gonna wipe them out real quick, just the best I can. Doesn't have to be perfect. All right, putting the new ones back in. I'll put the plug torque specs in the description. I forget what they are at the moment. It's not very much. Everything else I believe is 89 inch-pounds, but again, I'll put that in the description too. All right, let's double check. Good, good, good. Let's work on getting our valve cover back on. Let's work on getting this valve cover gasket replaced. If you pull yours out, you'll see that there's one long one and then three little ones, one in the center and then two tiny little ones on the sides. Having a small pick will help pull it out. Just want to be careful not to damage the plastic cover. There we go. Depending on how brittle it is, sometimes they'll snap and then you just have to find a new spot to pick and pull up. See, it can only go one way, so you just kind of have to figure that out. You want it pressed in nice and good, that way it doesn't fall out when you tip it over. That feels good there. Put our center ones in. You know, there is a right and a left of these little ones, but you'll see it, it's pretty obvious. All right. Snake it back in. So I'm gonna go clean this off real quick because we want it to look like we actually did something. All right, now we're ready to slide it back in. One thing you just want to be careful of when you're sliding it across is that the valve cover gasket doesn't hit on these caps too hard. You can actually put a split or a little slice in the valve cover gasket while putting it back. So try to keep it as high up as you can as you're sliding it across. And then I like to, before I set it down, just feel around to make sure the gasket's still in its slot. I've done that before where it popped out just a little, and then I went to go tighten it, and then the pressure of the valve cover coming down on it at an angle slit the gasket. We forgot to do a crucial step, but it's not too late. I'll show you what we need to do. If you see right here where the timing chain cover and the head meet, there's that little crease. We want to put a little RTV silicone right there, and then same on the back side. There's one more on that side. So put a little dab there. If you don't, you run the risk of having a leak right there at that crease. So if you forgot, kind of like I did, just moving along and skipped our minds, that's okay. You could do it now. It's not too late. You'd hate to get a silly leak like that just because we forgot. All right, we'll set it on, start threading our bolts in. Oh, that's why. That was in the way. There we go. Make sure all your cables and stuff, connectors, are out from underneath it. I had one still stuck underneath it. Okay. Now that they're all snug, we can go back in a crisscross pattern, kind of tightening things up to torque. Again, they're not very much on this, so I'm gonna clean this out real quick before I plug it in. Just wipe it off real good. Make sure there's no oil in it. All right, there we go. So now we can just start plugging everything back in, putting it where it went before. So now on the ignition coil, we'll put just a little dielectric grease or silicone paste just on the tip like that. Doesn't take a lot. That'll help pull them off of the plugs later. So we can put these back on. All right, I think that's it. I'm gonna put this in, but before I just wanna show you how that comes off. Pretty easy. Well, actually, here, let me pull it off at this side. Just bring it to you guys. So right here on this back side, there's this little clip here. You just pull it. So you push it in just a little and then pull it, and you can see the inside, how it spreads it open. So that's all it is. Pretty easy to get off. And it should just slide on. You don't have to pull that to put it on, just to get it off. I think that's it. Just double check everything's plugged in and good to go. Ready to fire this thing up. Some of you might be going, what, Bosch? What are you doing, Robert? This is a Ford. And that's right. It should be Motorcraft spark plugs. These are customer provided parts. So typically we want Motorcraft for Ford. So if you're doing this job, that's what I would recommend. And you can get Motorcraft from the local parts store. You don't have to go to the dealer for Motorcraft plugs. All right, let me clean up my space here and we will fire this bad boy up. All right, repair is complete. We got the car running and it is running a lot better than it was before. Interesting, I wanna show you something real quick. So we did have the check engine light on when we started. You can notice the idle's a lot smoother, but notice what code we have in that check engine light. P0302, that's cylinder number 2 misfire. So that's interesting because cylinder number 2 was that spark plug. If you look at the engine, the farthest to the left is cylinder number 1, the closest to the timing gears. Cylinder number 1, cylinder number 2 was the next one over. Not sure if you recall, but that is the spark plug that had fallen apart. So it wasn't cylinder number 4, which I would have thought that one that was filled to the brim with oil was not showing a misfire. Now, it could have been misfiring every once in a while, just not enough to throw a code, but still, I would have thought for sure that code would have been in there for a cylinder 4 misfire. So just kind of interesting, just another like, wow, this Ford just kept on kicking. So anyway, just interesting. One thing to keep a note, if your spark plug wells were filled with oil, you pulled the plugs and oil got in, when you first start it up, you will be puffing some blue smoke out the tailpipe. Don't worry, that's normal. That'll burn off and then it'll start running clean again. I think that's pretty much it. This repair, anybody can do. It's pretty basic, just maintenance stuff. I know you guys got this. I don't really have anything else to bring out. So thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. See you on the next one.